I love it. Swatch, and I thought I knew the yarn, but clearly I didn't. Rosarios Quattro. And since I want this stashing down journey to be encouraging and like fun, so cute. I just really don't like the way a single layer neckline looks. I just don't like it. Hi, my name is Maya and welcome to my YouTube channel where I share all my thoughts, process and other random stuff about all things fiber related, but mostly knitting. Today is the 3rd of April 2026 and I'm coming to you from the French-speaking part of Switzerland where I live with my gecko. As you may have heard, it is now April, which means March is over, which means it is time for the March stash update video. And I'm so excited! So I will take you through the current balance of my stash, how much yarn got in, how much yarn got out, and I will show you the yarn I have acquired and I will show you the projects I have knit during the whole month of March. And it's going to be quite interesting because there was a lot of action in terms of stash movement. Actually, I thought it was going to be a lot worse than that, mostly in the yarn in department. I actually thought the month of March was going to be the worst of the whole year because I knew that was when I had to acquire a lot of yarn for upcoming designs, like bigger projects, and I knew it was when the Swiss Yarn Festival was happening, and I usually do pretty heavy damage at the Swiss Yarn Festival. It's like the day of the year where I buy the most yarn. So I thought my stash was going to grow a lot, but it actually didn't, and it even went down a little bit, which is very surprising, but I'm not complaining. So yeah, let's talk about that today and see what happened and why things ended up that way. But before that, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you can always check out episode 0 of the series, where I explain everything about how and why my stash is what it is today, and what are my plans for the year, all of that. But I'm not going to repeat everything at every episode. So for the others, we're going to go straight into the numbers. So without further ado, here are the numbers. So at the start of March, so end of February, my stash was at 12,000. I'm looking at the numbers, 12,848 grams, so 12.8 kilo. And at the end of March, I was at 12,697 grams, so 12.7 kilo. So it did go down. That's impressive. I mean, for what I had in mind at the beginning of the month, at least. So the net total is minus 151 grams. It's not a lot, of course, but still, it's a lot more than I had expected, which is a win in my books. So now, in terms of my overall yearly goal, how far am I to reaching it? So I like to count this in percentages of the total net negative I want to reach by the end of 2026. Meaning, when I started the year, I had a certain amount of yarn in stash, and when I end 2026, I want to be under 10 kilo. And to reach this goal, I want a net negative of 5,131 grams. And at the end of February, so beginning of March, I was at 44.5% of the way in, so almost halfway. And now I'm up to 47.5% of the way in, so very close actually to where I was at the end of January. So somehow, during the month of March, I completely compensated the little bit of net positive I had at the end of the month of February, which is pretty cool. So now let's have a little breakdown of the numbers. The total net negative of the month is divided, of course, into yarn in and yarn out. So the yarn in was 1,639 grams. So a bit more than 1.6 kilo of yarn in, so I bought 1.6 kilo of yarn, basically. And the yarn out was 1,790 grams. So I knitted up 1.8 kilo of yarn. And I didn't destash anything, so everything is stuff I have knitted up. Which is, wow. Yeah, that's a lot, but I knit up heavy yarns, and that helped. But I'm going to talk about that afterwards, because first I want to show you the yarn I have acquired this month. So I am surrounded by yarn, and I'm also surrounded by finished knits, because I have knit up a lot of the things I have bought this month. So the first thing I bought was 242 grams of drops bell for a muscle tank, which is what I'm wearing. So I clearly finished it. It's a design of mine. And I had a little bit of leftovers, and I did this with them. So I did this bow. It's an Augustine's number 22. It's so cute. And I still had a little bit left, so I did a long eye cord that I cut in half, and then I did those tiny bows with it, if it wants to lay flat. Yeah, this. And I have the other one here. So I used everything. I have absolutely nothing left. And the muscle tank, I'm a bit annoyed. I'm going to talk about it more in the podcast, but the podcast is not going to be before a long time. So my gauge is too small because I didn't gauge swatch. Totally my fault. But I started on the first time and I knit on 4.5 millimeters, and the gauge was way too loose, like way too loose. So I started over at 4 millimeters, which is actually what's recommended on the ball band of Drops Bell to get the gauge that's specified in the pattern, 21 stitches. But I did this thing that I always do, is that when I start a project and the gauge is too loose, if I start over, even if I use a smaller needle, I'm going to overcompensate and knit super tight. I cannot help it, I just do it. So I overcompensated and I knitted so tight, it was like, it was ridiculous. I could feel it when I was knitting, but I just couldn't help it. I couldn't stop myself. And I was also thinking, since this is like, it's a blend of, I don't know, it's cotton, linen, and viscose, something like that. So something that really stretches out. And I have used a very similar blend, which is Sandnes Garn Line. It's almost the same, but in fingering weight. And that one stretched out a lot when I blocked it. So I figured this one would probably behave the same way, and it's DK weight. So it was probably even going to stretch out more because it's heavier. It didn't move. The gauge was exactly the same between before and after blocking. I don't know. Yeah, it's a mystery. What I think is that I can try to reblock it a second time and stretch it out when I block it, because I was really careful to really like zhuzh it into a smaller shape because I really didn't want it to stretch out too much. And I think I shouldn't have done that. I think I can gain a little bit of room in the blocking process, because right now I have like almost zero ease. It's fitting fine, but it's just not what I have in mind. And I just wanted it to be a little bit like wider on the shoulders and just a bit of positive ease instead of being close fitting like that. I mean, it's not close fitting. I have positive ease, but not in the bust area. So I think I'm gonna try to reblock it. But whatever, this has nothing to do with my stash. I just finished a project really quickly because I was in a time crunch and I didn't have the time to swatch, and I thought I knew the yarn, but clearly I didn't. And that's totally on me. Now, the second yarn I got in is a sweater quantity of Robinson by De Rerum Natura. And I got 6 balls, so I only have 4 here. So 4, but I got 6. And it's a cotton wool blend that I'm gonna knit up into a Patagonia Peaks Light, which is also a design of mine. And my plan was to knit it up in April, which is why I haven't touched it, but I am gonna cast on tomorrow. So I'm very excited about that. And that's gonna be a good chunk of yarn out of stash in April, but for March, it's a good chunk of yarn going into stash. The next acquisition is the biggest one of the month. I can only show you the finished object because I have knit up everything I received. So this is, it's supposed to be a laundry basket, and I wanted it to like stay upright, but it doesn't. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the yarn in, which is this kind of blue-gray steel color. And it's We Are Knitters The Wool in the colorway Lead. I have no idea what, I mean, I know what lead means, and I know a few meaning of the word lead, but none of them remind me of this color, so I don't know why it's called that way, but yeah, whatever. So I had already the gray, the green, and the yellow, and I needed yarn to finish the project. So I asked during the, I think it was during the February stash update, I asked if anybody had this specific yarn in their stash and I could buy it from them. And someone in Belgium, hi Natalie, said she had 3 balls and she could send them to me. So she did that and she offered them to me. So for full transparency, I only paid for shipping. And since those balls come in 200 grams, it was 620 grams of yarn in, which is a lot, but it also obviously came out, but I'm going to talk about that later. So that was the big chunk. It's even more than the 6 balls of this yarn, which was, did I say it, 680 grams in total. Then, a bit more of a reasonable amount, I got 203 grams of Studio Linen Echo by Erica Knight, and this is all I have left. I had bought 4 50-gram skeins, and I used almost everything into a summer top that I'm going to show later. So I just have the swatch, and this is like 20 grams or something. I'm a bit annoyed because this is a bit too much to do an Augustine's, and I already have this bow in this color in another yarn, so I don't need to. So I don't know what to do with this. But it's okay. I will find something. Maybe. And then I got, so at the Swiss Yarn Festival, the only yarn I got, even though I wanted to buy a sweater quantity and maybe 2 top quantities, I didn't. And the only thing I got is this. So this is, okay, so it's a Portuguese brand, and I already struggled during the Swiss Yarn Festival vlog to pronounce the name, but I'm going to try my best. So it's Rosarios Quattro, and the yarn is Folklore. I tried my best. And those were gifted to me, I mean, not gifted, like given to me by the brand, because they have a program to support designers if they design in their yarns. And I was chatting with the ladies at the booth, and I was very interesting to design with this yarn, so they gave samples to me so that I could swatch, and if this is suitable for the design, I can contact them, and we will find something for the sweater quantity I will need. So this is really nice. I'm very excited to swatch with it. It's like a non-superwash worsted spun 100% wool blend. It's very soft, and there was a sample knit up with it. It was a colorwork sample. It was gorgeous. The yarn was really, really wonderful, but I fear it might be a bit too thick. And since it's worsted spun, it might be a bit too heavy as well. So yeah, I don't know. I haven't swatched with it yet because I'm not going to cast this on until May. So it felt a little bit too early. I'm still going to think about other choices I might find and then see what because I have other designs I could do with those that could maybe be even better. So yeah, whatever. I received 2 balls, so in total that's 93 grams. And as you can see here, it says sample. So this is not something you can buy because those come in 100-gram balls, skeins, balls. So yes, I got these, and I don't know the colorway name because it's not written. And the last acquisition, it's a little bit weird. So if you watched the January episode, it already happened once there, but yeah, buckle up. It's a bit strange. So basically, at the beginning of the year, when I did my big stash assessment to see how much I had, I did something which was totally logical to me, and I still have no regrets about it, is that I counted in stash yarns that I didn't have yet, because I was 100% sure I was going to buy them, and I was 100% sure of what yarn I would buy and of how much yarn I would need, meaning I knew exactly how much was going to be in stash whenever I bought the yarn. And since I want this stashing down journey to be encouraging and fun, I counted those in stash already, so that whenever I buy them, the stash doesn't go up. But when I knit them up, the stash goes down. Girls' math. For me, it made sense to do things that way. However, so in January, what happened is that the sweater quantity I bought, all the 50-gram balls were a little bit less than 50 grams. So I had put 650 grams in stash, and I had 630 something actually come in stash. So I had to remove the difference from the stash, even though I bought the yarn. But I had put too much in the stash originally, so I had to remove the excess. And the same thing happened this month, except it's even worse, because I ended up not buying the yarn I had originally planned, and I used another yarn that's much lighter and that just has more length per unit of grams, I would say. So I didn't have to buy as much yarn at all. So it was for the Sweet Sweater, which is a design of mine, and I initially wanted to buy Nepal nipple something by drops, which is pretty heavy because it has alpaca content. But I ended up going with Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino. This is the colorway French Anemone. Anemone? Anemone. In French it's anemone, and this is French anemone. Everyone asks me what this color is, so it's French anemone. Which is a lot lighter than, of course, an alpaca blend. So I had put in stash 650 grams originally, but I only bought 510 grams. So I had 140 grams too much that I had to remove from stash. So I bought 10 balls of this, but my stash went down by 140 grams. It is how it is. Of course, you could think that this way of doing things is a bit cheating. However, think about it the other way around. When I started the year, since I had those two 650 grams, like virtual 650 grams that I didn't have in stash yet, it meant that my goal, my yearly goal, was to get down. So I said at the beginning it was 5,131 grams. So I started the year with a goal that was 5 kilo and something of yarn to get out of stash. But if I hadn't added those two virtual sweater quantities, my yearly goal would be under 4 kilos. So it would seem a lot more manageable and approachable. But I decided to do things this way. So now I have the bonus that when I buy yarn, I actually get yarn out of stash. But it also means that when I started the year, the goal was much, much higher than it was in reality, kind of. Anyway, that's all for the yarn I got in during the month of March. So now we can talk about the yarn that got out. So I'm going to show you all the projects I have finished, and that's it. So the first one I have already talked about is the one I'm wearing. And the one I finished after this is very small. It's this little thing. It's a headband, very small headband, that I can wear when I go climbing. Obviously not like this. It goes pretty well with the muscle tank, actually. Yeah, because I just want to keep my floaty hair outside of my face when I have a ponytail, and I just did it for that. So this used 26 grams, and I had 7 grams remaining that I put into the box of my sweat job blanket yarns that I'm going to show after this. I mean, at the end of the video. Then the next thing I finished is that I fixed a tee. So this is the leg stripe tee that I test knit for Ozetta a couple of years ago. And when I finished it originally, it had one less stripe on the body, so it ended here. And it was too short. And I wasn't really wearing it as much as I wanted because it was too short, so I ended up putting it back on the needles and waiting a whole year before finally lengthening the body. So I couldn't wear it for a whole year, which is like wearing it even less than when it was just too cropped, which is silly. But now that it's finished, I have lengthened it, I have used everything I had left of the blue yarn, and now I wear it all the time, so I'm super happy. And I also did a swatch with the rest of the green yarn. I still have a little bit left, but yeah, I did this thing that I'm probably going to unravel at some point, but whatever. I used 28 grams total in those two things. Then I did, okay, I forgot it. Then I did this little bad boy. It's a Kirby in like amigurumi crochet thing. It's super cute, and I have my markers and needle stoppers and stuff inside it, and just rest on my desk. So cute. I love it so much. And yeah, it's super handy. It's super cute, and every time I look at it, it makes me smile. And it used almost nothing. I think in total I used 11 grams. The pink yarn is 100% cotton. It's Tissa by Long, I think. And the red is a Holst Supersoft L double. I just needed a red yarn, and it was the closest shade I could find. So yeah, I did this little guy and didn't get much out of stash, but it's okay because it was fun. Then I did those two guys, the bows that I showed earlier already, and I used the rest of the drops bell. So the muscle tank I think used 210 grams, and then the bows were the remaining 32 grams. So I had 5 balls originally. After this, I finished the sweet sweater, which is the one I knit up with the Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino. So as you can see, it's a very basic raglan sweater, but it has the short rows on the back neck are done differently than usual, which means it actually fits and it's not like choking you in the front. And there's 2 different increase rates in the sleeves and a few other details, but whatever, this is not the podcast, this is the stash update video. And this one is going to come out pretty soon, so I had to finish it before the photo shoot that happened yesterday, so I kind of like powered through it. I think it took me 1 week to finish it from cast on to finish. Yeah, it went really fast, but the gauge is pretty big. It's a 18 stitch gauge, and as you can see, the fabric is lovely. Yeah, I really like it. And I used 314 grams, so I had 10 balls, I said, and I have 3 untouched balls left and a 4th one that's almost complete. So that's a lot of yarn left over, but I have plans for the month of April. But I have talked about that already in the spring knitting plans, so I'm not going to repeat myself. But I used a lot of yarn here, and as you can maybe see here, I still have the end, because I think I'm going to pick up stitches around the neckline, knit it a bit longer and fold it in, because I just really don't like the way a single layer neckline looks. I just don't like it. And since the pattern has the 2 options anyway, I'm just going to do the folded over version because I don't like this. So yeah, this was a very quick finished project. And then I finished just as quickly the second sample of my 30s top. Oh, it's so cute with the bow! It has 2 options. It has the open front version and the closed version. So this one is the closed version, obviously. It's so sweet. As you can see, it's a V-neck top with a big bow in the front. And I knit this using this yarn, the Studio Linen. And I think it took me like a week as well. So yeah, it also went pretty fast. And I used 175 grams for this one. The last project, last but not least, is my sweatshirt blanket. Oh! So I haven't shown this one in the precedent monthly stash updates, even though I had worked on it every month, because I have counted the yarn as 1 whole, I mean 2 whole. I have 1 entry for the main color, which is the black. Oh, I love it. And 1 entry for the contrast colors. So they are all counted as 1 big skein of yarn, I would say. So if I want to know how much yarn I have used up in this project, I need to weigh everything. All the main color yarn I have left and all the contrast colors yarn I have left. So this is 1 basket, but then there's another one, another box that's full of small little bits of skeins like this. And it's a bit annoying to weigh, so I just don't do it every month because it's a pain. But I did it for this month because it's the end of the first trimester. So I think when I started the year, I had done 3 vertical stripes because I go by stripes. And I have done 3 others during January, February and March. So I have used up 191 grams of main color, so the gray, and I have used 180 grams of the contrast color. Not bad. So in total, that's, I haven't written the total. Let's see if I can do math by head. 371 grams. Hopefully it's correct. So yeah, not bad. I'm pretty happy about this. And I unfortunately had to put it on pause. I actually haven't touched it in the month of March. Very sad, because I was so concentrated on powering through like this one, the laundry basket that I forgot to show you actually, and this one, that I just didn't have the time to knit on this. And I'm not gonna work on it in April either, I think, because I'm gonna be on holiday, but more about that later. Whatever, I forgot to tell you about the laundry basket. So I knit up the whole 620 something grams of the new colorway, and I had a little bit of Is it here? Yeah, it's here. This, the bottom color. This is Drop Snow held double, and I had a little bit of it left, so I did an I-cord bind off, but you can't really tell anything. But I knew I didn't have enough to do an I-cord bind off. No, just a standard bind off with holding 2 strands together. I knew I wouldn't have enough, so I did a 2-stitch I-cord bind off with 1 strand on the same needle size as the rest, which is 10 millimeters. I think it's US 15. So you can't really see much, but I think it gives a nice finish. It just looks like there's an end. It's not just a raw edge, which I pretty like. And I also wanted to do the inside, come on, the inside of the handles with like a blanket stitch or something with what I have left. But I was like, maybe it's gonna look cute if I do it afterwards, which is why I have already felted it without doing this, but now I'm second guessing myself, but whatever. I talked a lot about all the projects I just showed over on Instagram, and I got a lot of suggestions. I need to sneeze. Maybe moving this around makes a bit too much dust for my poor nose. Yeah, I got a lot of suggestions on what to do to felt it more, or yeah, I got a lot of suggestions already, so I'm not looking for more, but while I go on holiday, I'm not going to be able to touch this anyway, so it's just going to go in the corner, and I will see when I come home. Now, that's it for the March stash update. I think I don't have anything to add. So yeah, very satisfying. I'm pretty pleased that I managed to get my stash down, even though I was sure it would be the opposite. And pretty pleased that by the end of Q1, I'm almost halfway through my yearly goal, which was already the case at the end of January, but whatever. And we'll see what happens in April. As I mentioned, I'm gonna go on holidays, so I'm leaving tomorrow. Tomorrow is the big day, I'm not ready. And I'm coming home mid-April, I think the 18th or something like that, I'm not even sure. We're going to Spain, we're gonna climb in Spain, so it's gonna be climbing heavy holidays, but when you climb, you also need to rest. So it's usually like 2 days of climbing, 1 day of rest, and during rest days, I can knit. So there's gonna be a lot of knitting, but I'm also gonna have to walk because on the 9th of April, the sweet sweater, this bad boy, and the sweet socks, which I haven't shown because I haven't knit up a pair recently, are gonna come out. And they're gonna be both free patterns, so stay tuned for that. And then I'm gonna have to write up a whole new pattern, and yeah, I'm gonna have to work quite a bit. But I also have lots of knitting plans for the month of April, and I don't plan to buy anything. So maybe April stash update is gonna be awesome. Maybe I'm gonna see a yarn shop in Spain that I wasn't expecting, and I'm gonna find the perfect yarn for my colorwork project, and I'm gonna buy a whole sweater quantity, maybe even more. Who knows? But yeah, we're gonna see this at the end of April. So I hope you enjoyed this little video. When you see this, I am totally gonna be in Spain, enjoying the sun, the climbs, and the walking during holidays. And yeah, I hope to see you again next time, which will be when I come home from holiday. So don't forget to subscribe if you don't want to miss out on that. Thank you for being here, thank you for your comments, thank you for your likes, thank you for your support. I hope to see you again when I come home. Happy knitting, I love you.